Welcome to Mindful Moments. Nourish your mind on the go. This video uses AI narration to present our original book analysis.
Oh, cool.
Today, we're diving deep into Tim Marshall's Prisoners of Geography.
Oh, wow.
You might be thinking, geography, isn't that all about maps and capitals?
Right.
But this book argues that mountains and rivers and coastlines shape a country's politics, economy, and even its potential for conflict.
It's fascinating. Marshall connects these seemingly timeless geographical features to current events. He has all these vivid examples. He compares a slice of pizza to explain Russia's foreign policy.
A slice of pizza. Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
Okay, so imagine the crust of the pizza as Russia's vast, flat North European plain. And this plain has been a major invasion route throughout history, leaving Russia vulnerable from the West.
Oh.
Think Napoleon and Hitler both trying to conquer Russia through that very plain.
So this geographical vulnerability has shaped Russia's historical anxieties.
Absolutely. And those anxieties continue even to this day. Think about Russia's annexation of Crimea in 2014.
Right.
Controlling the Black Sea was a strategic move to prevent NATO from establishing a naval base in what Russia sees as its backyard.
And this ties into Russia's use of energy as a political weapon.
Exactly. Those pipelines carrying gas to Europe are like Russia's arteries, giving them leverage over European countries. Marshall points out that Russia isn't afraid to use this leverage to influence policy, sometimes leaving countries out in the cold, literally.
That raises the question, is Russia destined to be aggressive because of its geography?
You know, Marshall doesn't say that.
Okay.
He argues that geography isn't destiny, but it's a powerful force that shapes options and anxieties.
Yeah.
Russia's history of invasion and that vulnerable plain have created a deep-seated insecurity that influences their actions on the world stage.
Fascinating. So if a slice of pizza represents Russia,
Right.
what image can help us understand China's geopolitical situation?
Well, China, despite its size and population, faces a different kind of geographical constraint.
Okay.
Limited access to the open. Think of China as like a giant dragon confined to a specific region with a limited ability to project its power globally.
But they're working on overcoming that, right? I mean, we hear a lot about China's growing naval ambitions.
Absolutely. Marshall refers to their strategy as the string of pearls, establishing naval bases in the Indian Ocean to secure trade routes and access to energy resources.
So China's geographical limitations are pushing them to seek influence further afield. And what about internally? I remember reading about Tibet's importance to China's security.
Tibet serves as a crucial buffer zone between China and India. Control over Tibet also gives China control over vital water resources that flow into other parts of the country. It's no coincidence that China has been so firm in suppressing Tibetan independence movements.
It seems like control over strategic locations is a recurring theme here.
Yeah.
Speaking of strategic locations, let's turn our attention to the United States. We've had a very different geographical experience compared to Russia.
That's a key point. The U.S. has enjoyed significant geographical advantages. Two vast oceans have acted as natural barriers, protecting the U.S. from invasion.
Right.
But it goes beyond just natural defenses.
Okay.
The U.S. has actively shaped its destiny through strategic acquisitions.
Like the Louisiana Purchase.
Exactly.
That doubled the size of the country.
Exactly. And the annexation of Florida, securing locations like Cuba and Hawaii, these moves gave the U.S. control over vital waterways and trade routes, solidifying its continental dominance.
It's like the U.S. has been playing a grand game of risk, carefully securing its position. But it's not just about the U.S., Russia, and China, right?
Yeah.
Marshall covers a wide range of geographical influences throughout the book.
He does. Prisoners of Geography takes us on a global journey, exploring how geography has shaped history and continues to influence the world today. From the historical divisions of Europe to the challenges facing Africa, the complexities of the Middle East, the strategic importance of the Arctic, and even the emerging geopolitics of space. So let's take Western Europe, for example.
Okay.
Marshall points out this historical divide between Northern and Southern Europe, influenced by geography.
Okay.
The North, with its flat plains and navigable rivers, industrialized early and developed strong trade networks. Think of the Rhine River. A lifeline for commerce, connecting countries like Germany, France, and the Netherlands.
And the South?
Yeah.
Was their development hindered by a more challenging landscape?
Precisely.
Huh.
Countries like Spain and Greece,
Yeah.
while blessed with beautiful coastlines,
Right.
faced geographical barriers that made trade and interconnectedness more difficult. This historical divide played a role in the Eurozone crisis centuries later.
So the economic disparities that fueled the crisis were rooted in long-standing geographical realities. That's a powerful insight.
Yeah.
And then we have Africa, a continent whose geography has presented some unique challenges.
Huge challenges.
Vast deserts, dense rainforests, and the lack of easily navigable rivers have hindered development and contributed to its vulnerability to colonialism.
Mm-hmm.
I can see how European powers exploited those geographical weaknesses.
Mm-hmm.
It's tragic how those arbitrary borders, drawn without regard for existing ethnic and religious groups,
Right.
continue to fuel conflict today.
It's a really important point. Marshall delves into that very issue in his chapter on the Middle East.
Okay.
He argues that artificial borders imposed by colonial powers ignored existing divisions and created the conditions for instability. A prime example is Iraq, with its Sunni, Shia, and Kurdish populations forced together within borders that made little sense.
It's like a recipe for conflict.
Yeah.
And it seems like those artificial borders played a role in the rise of groups like ISIS.
Oh, absolutely.
Who exploited existing tensions to gain territory.
Exactly. Geography isn't just about physical features, right? It's about the people who live on the land, their identities, and the fault lines that can erupt when those lines are drawn in the wrong places.
This raises an important point.
Yeah.
It's not just about where borders are drawn, but also about the resources within those borders, particularly water.
Absolutely. Control over water resources is a major source of tension, particularly in regions like the Middle East and South Asia. Marshall highlights the importance of the Indus River for Pakistan, a country facing multiple geographical challenges.
Squeezed between India, Afghanistan, and Iran.
Right.
Pakistan's dependence on the Indus River makes it highly sensitive to any changes in water flow.
It's a reminder that geography shapes not only a country's options, but also its vulnerabilities. And these vulnerabilities often play out in the realm of international relations.
Speaking of international relations, Marshall also examines the geographical challenges facing Latin America.
He points out how the Andes Mountains and the Amazon rainforests in vast distances have hindered economic integration and development. It's like trying to build the unified economy on a patchwork of geographically isolated regions.
And these challenges are compounded by a history of political instability and intervention from outside powers.
Yes, Marshall critiques the long shadow of the Monroe Doctrine and how it has often led to more harm than good in the region. He doesn't shy away from highlighting the negative impacts of U.S. involvement in Latin America.
It's a reminder that geography shapes not only the actions of individual countries, but also the dynamics between them, sometimes leading to unintended consequences.
That brings us to a region undergoing a dramatic transformation due to climate change, the Arctic.
The melting Arctic is opening up new shipping routes and access to valuable resources like oil and gas, leading to increased competition.
It's a prime example of how geography is not static.
Yeah.
It's constantly changing. And those changes have the potential to reshape global politics. We see this with Russia's increasing assertiveness in the Arctic, planting their flag on the seabed of the North Pole as a symbolic claim to the region.
It seems like the Arctic is becoming a new frontier for geopolitical rivalry. But Marshall takes us even further in his final chapter, exploring a realm where geography takes on a whole new meaning.
Space. The final frontier. And as we push beyond Earth, the old rules of geography may no longer apply. But as Marshall points out, new challenges will emerge. Even in space, like location still matters. Consider the strategic importance of orbital slots for satellites, or the potential for resource extraction from asteroids, or the race to establish like a presence on the moon. These are all forms of space geography that will shape future competition.
So the game of geopolitics is extending beyond our planet. What implications does that have for the future?
Well, Marshall points out the increasing militarization of space. I mean, we already have anti-satellite weapons. Oh, wow.
We have these sophisticated space-based surveillance systems, and discussions around space-based missile defense are heating up.
It's a bit unsettling to imagine space becoming a potential battleground. Does Marshall offer any solutions to these emerging challenges?
You know, he doesn't really offer easy answers. Prisoners of Geography is more about raising awareness and encouraging critical thinking about the forces that shape our world both on Earth and beyond. The book prompts us to ask ourselves what kind of future we want to create in space. One of cooperation or one of conflict?
It's a thought-provoking question. As we become a spacefaring species, we need to be mindful of the lessons we've learned or failed to learn here on Earth.
Exactly. And that's what makes Prisoners of Geography such a compelling read. It's not just about geopolitics. It's about understanding the interconnectedness of our world and the choices we face as a global community.
So for our listeners who want to delve deeper into these ideas, what would you say is the biggest takeaway from Prisoners of Geography? Marshall reminds us that geography isn't just about maps and borders.
Right.
It's a powerful force that shapes history, influences politics, and even impacts our daily lives in ways we might not realize.
This deep dive has certainly given me a new perspective on the world. It's made me realize how much geography influences events that we often attribute solely to politics or economics.
Absolutely.
If you're interested in understanding the forces shaping our world, both past and present, I highly recommend reading Prisoners of Geography. It's a fascinating and insightful exploration of the enduring power of place.
Couldn't agree more.
For our listeners, we've included a link in the description where you can purchase a copy of Prisoners of Geography and support our channel. While you're at it, don't forget to subscribe to Mindful Moments for more deep dives into thought-provoking books and ideas. Until next time, keep those minds nourished.